Welcome to today's Life Coach Pod, the show. And we have a great guest who's here today, Shelley Karpaty, and I'm going to start with my usual, which is to remind you what day it is. It's a Tuesday. Tuesdays are easy to forget because we get through Monday and then every day is looking the same. So yes, it's Tuesday, April 14th. Tomorrow used to be tax day, but in our new world, we all have an extension until the middle of July. That doesn't mean you should languish, because if you really do want to participate in the PPP, Payroll Protection Program, which may or may not be out of money already, so we're going to check on that. But our leadership is working on adding more funds. Anyway, my point is, if you want to take advantage of that plan, or idle, if you have a bigger business that needs to take advantage of the EIDL, you need to get your taxes done. Yes, I still am telling myself this every day, but I have actually started, and that's how Katie started her Easter, is that she had to start going through old mail and hunt for tax documents. So it wasn't an Easter egg, but it kept her busy, and we're not done yet. It is March 45th for those of you sheltering in place. We are hearing rumors of maybe resuming some kind of life. So when that happens, this show will no longer be live. I'm still going to do it, but I won't necessarily be doing it live, because hopefully all of us will be resuming a little bit of life, but I'll keep you informed on that one. I've made a little switch. I'm going to tell you who our guests are coming up so I can dig into the news in a minute for our time capsule moments. But coming up tomorrow is Gloria Niall, who is going to talk about how to motivate your teen. Why does she know about that? She doesn't have kids, except she does. She coaches teenagers, which surprisingly probably doesn't pay enough. But she'll be here to talk to us about how to motivate teens, both now and in the future. And then Laurel will be here to talk about branding and naming. And then Michelle Quay will be here to talk about the power of self-perception. She is an amazing woman who has overcome a lot in her life. And I'm not quite sure how she'll tell the story, but I do know that the power of self-perception has been huge for her. Okay, so here's their time capsule moments. So when we all look back on this and wonder what the heck happened, this will help us remember. An Indiana man who is also a volunteer firefighter went to go get his check for $1,200 from the feds out of the ATM. And on his statement, the little slip of paper that came out, it said that he had $8.2 million. Turns out, even though he had, I guess, a heart attack in the moment, thinking, oh my God, what's happened? That's not just a typo, is it? 8.2 million. What really happened is that the receipt printer thingy code that was printing receipts was printing the numbers wrong. So I had to tell you that story, because if you look at your receipt and it doesn't make sense, please don't believe it. Don't ever believe those receipts. Always make sure you know what's going on with your bank. Check your online account. But I just would love to be the proud owner of the receipt that even said I had $8.2 million, even if it was a typo. That seems like a keeper from these times. The next thing I wanted to bring up, because it's awful and it's finally hitting the news, is that nursing homes are being hit hard by the virus. Anybody who knows me knows I have an affection for geezers. The first geezer I ever took care of was Grandma Watson when I was just a little wee child, and she taught me how to crochet, which I still do today. And I adored Grandma Watson. She actually lived in the home of, she was the mom of people that I thought were really, really old, who were in their 60s. Grandma Watson was in her 90s. And so we used to also go over to hang out at the chambers and have what they called snorts, which were, they had adult beverages. We had Coca-Cola, which we weren't allowed to have Coca-Cola at home. So it was a big deal to have Coca-Cola. Anyway, I love old people. They're the bomb. And I am just devastated about what's happening in our nursing homes, as if we couldn't have seen it coming. But one of the issues, as you know, has been personal protection equipment, masks, all of that. So if you have somebody in a nursing home, I want you to be paying attention to this story. They're starting to look for ways to move people out, including just get them back home, if that's something you can support. But please pay attention to this story. It's a big deal, and we don't want our geezers to be in trouble. Okay, the last story is going to make me kick up a new slide. This is a big deal, because if you have a mortgage, and this isn't, and the reason this might even be of interest to you if you're a renter, is one of the problems about being able to withhold rent, like give you a break on rent, is that if you own the property, you still owe on the mortgage. So I was really thinking that our government might do something as simple as just shove our payments out. Like we just don't make our payments this month or next month, and we just extend the life of the loan. It all just shoves over. But no, there's something else going on, and it was not part of the CARES Act. And we've talked about this before. This is the CARES Act, that the first piece of legislation that came out for the virus. There are amendments being made and extensions to the CARE Act going on right now. That's what has to happen for that payroll protection program. They have to extend the CARES Act. But what you may not realize is that there is not anything in place right now to protect mortgages and people who owe on mortgages. So while you may have a hard time making rent, your landowner may have a hard time making the mortgage. What they're doing instead, and this is why you need to learn this new word, forbearance, is that they are using forbearance for mortgages. And this is not particularly good. I watched a video on this morning. What it really means is all they're doing is saying, okay, you don't have to pay for, typically it's 90 days or maybe 180 days, but here you go. Here's the gotcha. When that forbearance is over, which means you don't have to pay, your payments are postponed, but the interest continues growing. So on a mortgage, you know that's significant. Then you're going to owe at the end of those 90 or 180 days, you're going to owe the whole amount due. It's not pushing your payments forward. It's basically saying you're going to have to owe it all. So it is not helpful. It's not helpful at all. Actually, it's horrifying if you think about it. Who's going to be able to come up with those kind of payments after 90 or 180 days? So please, if you're looking for mortgage relief, you've got to work with your lender. But if they bring up the word forbearance, I want you to have your oh my God hat on and pay attention to that. They're not doing you a favor. You're going to need to fight harder. So that's where we are with the word forbearance. That is your time capsule moments for the day. And I will now transition to our guest, who is Shelley Karpaty, who I worked with. Who's coming in? It's okay, Shelley. Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. Don't bring the dog. No. After what happened on MSNBC this morning, we got this down, I got to tell you. It was hilarious to listen to a guest go, this is the worst interview I've ever done. I'm so sorry. His phone blew up. His phone kept blowing up. It was hilarious. So Shelley and I worked together, I think it's 4 years now, Shelley. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
It's like maybe 4 years, which doesn't feel like it, but it might be in the cybersecurity sector.
Yes.
And I loved her energy and her optimism. And I don't usually play well with HR people, but I played really well with Shelley because she's just a positive, upbeat person, and and didn't play by the rules, is what I felt like. Just wasn't typical. So, and that's a good thing. Sorry, all the other HR people I just insulted. Be like Shelley. That's what I feel like. Shelley. Anyway, Shelley's worked in recruiting. She's she's wearing many hats these days as she's out working. And I'm gonna let her go ahead and say more about herself. But Shelley, I'm so glad to see you. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And I feel the same way. It was so great working with you during that time in cybersecurity land. And we had some really good times. I learned so much there. And you're right. Yes, I'm not a typical HR person. Sometimes HR and recruiting get along and sometimes they don't. Sometimes we're together and sometimes we're not. But in any case, I have a history of working in recruiting for over 20 years in Silicon Valley. I've worked in companies in tech, and I've recently made the transition. I had one stint at Pete's Coffee and Tea, which was so much fun, being in the CPG world and working with lots of creatives, and that made me realize that, gosh, there's something about this. I need to stick with it. So as I progressed, then I came back and I started working in after that consulting recruiting role ended, I started working in care and the life sciences, and I really enjoyed recruiting to benefit people's health in various capacities. So that was really rewarding. But what I always find rewarding about being a recruiter is helping the candidate. I'm always about finding the candidate's strengths and, in a sense, helping the underdog, because I think that it's they really are the underdog in the whole job hunting and interview process. So I really like to help people put their best step forward, and that's why I transitioned into becoming a coach. And then I expanded my coaching into writing. I've been writing for the last 3 years, so I really love writing about different topics, everything from living and working in Silicon Valley to helping with career advice and then just some personal essays and observations about life. So I've got a lot of different interests, and also the Enneagram. So I'm excited to talk about that today as well, and how it can benefit people.
I love that you just did the classic Silicon Valley thing of saying CPG, which everybody went, what's CPG?
I know, right? Consumer packaged goods.
That's right. So that's not Valley. Valley doesn't do a lot of consumer stuff. In fact, there's a big difference between how marketing happens in the West Coast, in the Valley, the left coast, and how it's done on the East Coast, which is much more of a consumer influence. And you come out of East Coast school with the 3 Ps, product, pricing, and promotion. And we don't do that the same way in Silicon Valley, usually because we're making crap up about things that nobody can even articulate. Like our biggest challenge is just being able to articulate what the thing is that some genius engineer just came up with that you didn't know you need. It's interesting also because I do remember you being a big advocate of the candidate, that's one of the things that I really appreciated about you, because I think when you're the candidates, that's the hardest part. We know as candidates, we don't get callbacks. We don't get replies we just always are sending our emails off into that vast unknown. What happens on the recruiting side? Because as a recruiter, you must get just overwhelmed from people who are interested.
Yes, I mean, I think it depends on the company's brand. So if the company's brand is really big and well known in the different industries, then yes, the recruiters are overwhelmed with candidates. And it also depends on how many positions they are working on. So oftentimes a recruiter's sweet spot to be able to give each opening sufficient amount of time and energy, the sweet spot is for a recruiter to hold 10 roles at a time. However, a lot of times in Silicon Valley, the recruiters are pushed and they're holding 20 or more. And it's simply impossible for the recruiter to give the candidate an optimal experience when they are having lots of hiring managers barking at them, wanting resumes, needing to do the phone screens. So it's a very intricate process. And the recruiter, and why I don't say that the recruiter is really part of HR, they're the front lines. They're really the marketing and sales of the employers or part of the organization. So unfortunately, the candidates are not going to be always looked at unless they're referred. So being referred by someone internally, or introduced by someone else. So it's really about networking to get noticed.
Okay, so that's so important, because you brought up the other thing that I think we forget when we become the candidate. We forget how annoying the hiring manager is for you, because they're the one that's doing the double work or triple work or pushing their team to do more without that headcount they really need. Then they also have the hassle of knowing they're going to have to onboard the headcount, get them started, do all that crap. That's a lot of work. So you have to deal with that nattering of the managers coming at you. I think this is so important for people applying to hear. So just remember, there's a lot coming at this recruiter. And what you just said was so important. Unless there's some way to get your little piece of paper to the top of the pile, which is why we use LinkedIn, guys. That's how you go find even a friend who has a friend at the place you want to apply. Those things matter. Makes a huge difference, right, Shell?
Yes.
It just gets you off the stack into the folder, maybe.
Exactly. And so I think that it really, it definitely helps. So that's why, especially today, no matter how much you prepare for your job search, a fair amount of the process is out of your control, and it highly depends on timing. And so the time frame in which you seek a new job can dictate everything from the quantity to the type of opportunities you find, and also to the amount of negotiation power you ultimately have. So, and then, in today's, job search, it's really, with this economic disruption, it's really just hard enough to know how to adjust to this new normal in your home life, and also need to secure your own livelihood. It adds an additional level of pressure. So I just want to recognize that, and I just think it's super important to be patient. And however, there are some really good things that we can still do now during this time. So I'd be happy to talk about that if that would be
Yeah,
helpful.
I think that's
Okay.
let me just close on one thing that you said, because it's really
Yes.
important, is that our ability to negotiate right now is going to be hampered by a really huge market of potential employees. So I understand that you can negotiate around skills that you might have that are unique, or particularly as you start to become more seasoned, you have leadership skills, there is some leeway there. But at the same time, it's going to be a different um, landscape as you go out to find work right now.
Exactly. And also talking about the negotiation, what's hard is the interviewing is all like on Zoom like this, and it's harder to read body language. It's harder to develop, keep it, it's just a different relationship, although it certainly is better than just on the phone. You also might want to push off negotiations until you can have that final meeting face to face, hopefully at the end of, the month of April.
I know, yeah, whatever that's going to look like. Yes, that's a good point.
Right.
That's a really good point. Okay, so what are some other ways, the other ways you can help yourself,
Mhm.
market yourself, and cut through the noise?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to say also that for part of that, April is actually a really good time to look for jobs. It's not as like intense as January when everybody's like, "All right, I got my bonus and I want to, try and change careers or change jobs." Um, and so right now, it's important to network to find out which jobs are actually real. So a lot of times, companies will put up like what's called an evergreen rec, and it's basically something that they're looking for all the time. Take recruiting, for instance. They have there's always recruiter jobs posted, but they're not always real because they always want to keep they often like to keep a pipeline of candidates, and that's always the case. That could be the case for a lot of recs that have like revolving doors, or if it's an entry level, or if it's inside something like inside sales. That would be an evergreen rec as well, because there's always a very quick career progression for inside sales. They eventually will move to outside sales or somewhere else.
That's right. Once you find out if they're trainable and they can get it down and they know how to use Salesforce and all those simple
Hmm.
things, that makes you, that gives you every opportunity to move forward in the organization. So both make sure the opportunity is real, I heard you say, and then
Hmm.
if you do take those entry level jobs, be aggressive, learn as much as you can, as fast as you can, express your desire to do more, and kick ass, because there are pathways to move up. For sure on inside
Absolutely.
sales. I do know that because they used to work for me. I used to have the inside sales team. So yeah,
Hmm.
that, and we loved grooming them. Like good
Yes.
people went far.
Yes, that's great. And so it's you have to really network hard, and it's a balance between applying online to things that look interesting, and also networking with trying to find out who the job poster is, or if you have a connection somewhere in you twice removed on your LinkedIn profile. But companies aren't quite sure what the shakeout will be yet financially. So hiring managers are focusing right now on other priorities. They're teaching their teams how to remote, how to communicate, getting into that cadence of, making sure that people are feeling heard and busy, and I think people are actually working harder than ever, and proving so much about like we can work from home. The teams are functioning really well, and it's I think we're going to see a shift also with the working from home, especially in Silicon Valley, where it was um, after Marissa Mayer, I don't know if you remember, after Marissa Mayer became the CEO of Yahoo, the work from home became like few and far between. And now we're shifting back. I think it's really interesting.
I don't know. I know there's some people who take advantage, but my experience, like yours, is that 95% of the people who work from home do more work because they're home and not in the car and
Yes.
not getting talking in the hallways and all those other things. You actually can do work, like do the
Yes.
fun
Yes.
thing we wanted to do.
Right. And the lines are blurred, right? I mean, the lines between work or home are even more blurred. So we want to continue to prove ourselves, but then work is always on the mind and there's no differentiation between work and home. So I think that's also something important, is to set the boundaries, when you're communicating with your manager, and be like, say, hey, I'm going to be offline between 12 and 2. That's, been working since 8 a.m. and I need to take those, we have different productivity times, and levels. So the other thing that you can do is to, around like job search, is like, if you're in a position to help others, now do it. Just like, you're doing, Jen, you're helping others. I'm currently helping others in different ways and giving free, resume glances and checkovers and things like that. It's just good to not stay isolated. And if you need help, let them know specifically what you need. Not everybody will be able to support you in the way that's most helpful, but maybe they somebody, and or maybe they can do research within their networks. And right now we're in a place where I think communities are really rallying together to support each other. So I think it's could be a really good time for that as well.
That's so important. I know that most of the introverts out there, you know who you are. You hate asking for help. It's not like it's easier for us extroverts. It's just that we have a
Hmm.
little thicker skin and we're used to it. But but really, it really, I love what you're saying, Shelley, because it's really true. Asking for help using your networks, even if your safest networks, let's just say Facebook. I know it's not LinkedIn. Maybe you feel too vulnerable on LinkedIn. You can go to Facebook and ask people for help. It's
Hmm.
really okay. That's probably the safest social media out there, where it's the people that know you have a dog or a cat, know what happy hour you can only handle one margarita. Like, it's a really
Right.
safe place to ask for help if you're just learning how. So don't be afraid to do it.
Yeah, that's so true. And another thing, especially for introverts, that's really difficult, you can hone your skills. This is a great time for you to stay on top of your game. There's tons of classes on Udemy, and free classes on Harvard and MIT online courses. And just really honing together, like, how are you going to represent yourself, and how are you going to showcase your best skills? I know that. How, and get and honing in on your elevator pitch, so these are good times to do that as well.
You don't even know, but that's just what I was talking about yesterday. There are two podcasts already recorded about building your personal brand, part one and part two,
Yes.
where I specifically speak to that, setting your mission statement clearly, what it is you want from your life right now, and then going in and being able to articulate why you're the right person for the job, the task, the whatever it is, being able to articulate what your attributes are. And then we didn't really get into it, but I still think a cover letter is important. And is it, Shelley, does it make a difference?
Yeah. Well, I think if it's a job that you really want, it's important. But I think that some of that cover letter aspect can be translated to what you were just saying, which is great. The mission, and your mission, your personal mission, and your vision for who you are, that can be translated onto the resume. I like to help people understand that their mission statement at the top of their resume, and that part that should change for every job that's for, um, because what that should tell the hiring manager is, who you are, where you're going, how you've been successful, and how can you help the company solve their problems. How are you going to be the glue that sticks everybody together to be able to um, solve problems that they're facing.
That
So
they have, not what you have,
exactly.
their
Yes.
problems. because that's what gets them excited.
Yes, absolutely. I cannot stress that more. It's not about the resume, how it's changed. It's not about, look at what I've done. It is, but it's not just about that. It's about how are you going to solve their challenges that they have? So it takes a lot to really, I think it's about quality, not quantity when applying for the jobs, right? Because if you have to write that cover letter, say if you decide to be if you're applying for like to be a content writer, that's the perfect place for you to showcase your skills in the cover letter, to showcase how good of a writer and influencer you are. If you're a copywriter, even in marketing, you certainly have to be a good writer. And it also shows your business acumen. If you understand, if you can translate, okay, I see that this is your problem at your company. Here are my accomplishments of how I've solved problems similar and how I can fit in to do the same for you.
Yeah, it's like I paid you to say that, and that's just what I talked about yesterday.
Awesome.
And it's so good hearing it from somebody who had to go through the pile of resumes and had to listen and, really, you're right. Without knowing somebody's been referred or having some way to know this person's worth your time, I can't even imagine slogging through the mess. Like,
yes.
It's just so many humans, all of them decent humans who
yes.
have every intention of working hard, but somehow you've got to stand out. So being able to put yourself in the employer's shoes is a big, big deal.
Right.
And it is hard, and it does take work. You're going to have to practice that skill.
And have a thick skin. Don't take it personally at all, which is so hard. And as a recruiter, when I talk to, if I have a top 3 to 5 candidates and I like all of them, I want to give all of them a job. I want to find a place for them wherever they can be a fit. And that's the hardest part for me, is because I believe, and that's why I've turned into coaching, is because I believe everybody has a unique skill and has something special and important to offer, that it's everybody deserves a chance. If they're earnest enough and they're, have integrity and good values, everyone deserves a chance.
It's so funny, just my love for recruiters. It was a recruiter at Cisco, which I think maybe I'm bitter about this, but she didn't hire me for the job at Cisco because she thought I was too qualified. Had she, I probably would be really rich right now, but she didn't. But what she did do is she called her friend who was looking for someone and said, this person's too experienced for my job, but you want to take a look at her. And that created a lasting friendship. This mentor kept me employed for decades.
Nice.
So sure, I had to work for the money, didn't get any of that big Cisco stock. But on the other hand, it was really about those connections that you're talking about with the relationships and, finding the right people for the right fit.
Exactly. Yeah, it's great. And you have to follow up. You can't just, you have to be consistent, but politely persistent. And always I tell candidates if you have a verbal interview, make sure that you always ask about what the next steps might be, and don't be afraid to ask for the job.
That's right. And send a thank you.
Yes, send a thank you note.
Those still matter. Oh, people. I cannot believe how many times a friend has applied for a job or had that interview. And I'm like, you sent a thank you, right? And they're like, it's on email now. It's even easier than it used to be.
It is.
Send the thank you.
It is, but if you really want to stand out, send a written one.
Yeah. Wow.
I love getting written thank you notes.
Yeah, those are special. I'm just worried about time if it takes too long. But I know whenever hiring, when I get a thank you note, I would actually have a favorable impression of the candidate, even if it wasn't the one I hired. And I would say, I'm going to let my friends know about you, because they may not have been a right fit for the company, but I thought, wow, what a decent human. They deserve good karma. I'm going to pay it forward. So thank you notes are everything, guys. Don't forget that. That is just, I know I sound like your grandmother or your mom, but they matter. They just do. Please remember those. So, okay, you're using another tool now.
Yes.
And you said it differently than I say it. So say how you say it.
Okay, sure. So it's the Enneagram.
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 Okay.
It's actually an ancient tool. It's over 3,000 years old, and its precise origins are unknown. And it really is. The ancient Greeks used it, and it was brought to the West in the early 20th century by this philosopher, mystic, composer teacher guy named Gurdjieff, and then it fast forward, it only came to the United States in the 1980s. And so what I love about it, I'm a certified Enneagram coach, and what I love about it, I started discovering it because I'm very into self-development and self-knowledge and awareness, and it's helps us to understand where our ego resides within our fixations and beliefs. And so, we have this way of how we want to be perceived in the world. And, that's part of our ego aspirational self. But sometimes we have things that happen, be like, man, why do I keep getting into this situation? And you keep having the same response and you don't realize it. And then you just get stuck. And so it's kind of that philosophy of like, oh, I keep on expecting different results, but I'm doing the same thing over and over. Characteristics in our personalities that help us with this self-reinforcing loop that we have. And so what's great about the Enneagram tool is that it's for growth, and it's for more self-awareness and to help you get unstuck in that one box. And so with that turn, it becomes a way to liberate yourself. And we are not our type. We're not pigeonholed into this one, number. It's 9 numbers, and each number has like a personality type associated with it. And then there are like subtypes and wings, and because we're a little bit of all of them. So it just really helps us understand what our typical responses are as part of who we are, and then figuring out if we can change that, if it would benefit us to change any of that.
So that's so important. And the microphone cuts out a little tiny bit, so I want to make sure that people got the big point, which was, if you keep doing the same thing and you keep getting the same outcome, you need to change. That's what's important, guys. There's an opportunity for you to increase your self-awareness and for you to figure out a way to change. And that's what this assessment, right? It's an assessment that you use, Shelley, to help people understand where they land.
Correct. And yeah, it's for self-awareness and growth. And I'm actually giving away free sessions to do that right now because I want to become better at it. So people are welcome to connect with me to do that.
Oh my God, that's a screaming awesome thing. And folks, if there's something you're interested in, this kind of self-discovery right now, while Shelley's bored, because we're all going to start to get busy again. So it's a limited time offer, probably by the end of the month, I bet, Shelley, is that you have time for this right now while you're
Yes.
as you're excited about this new assessment. I know what that's like, because I learned some tools too in coaching school, and I got so excited about it. It's like, I need to share this with everybody. This is so cool. So this is your chance.
Yeah, I was learning, doing some energy based coaching. Looks exciting what you're doing too.
Yeah, it's similar in that it's just learning about yourself so you can change your outcomes, which is, I think, I'm really hoping that that's what's happening at a meta level, as we're all looking at the way our old normal wasn't so good.
Right.
Our old normal was super consumery. I don't think there's anybody right now who's not looking around and going, I don't need any more stuff. I just don't. I really need everybody to have health care. I really need to not worry about my old people, because they should be enjoying their senior years. That's what I want for me. That's what I want for them. I think we're all realizing that our kids needed us more, and we had put them in programs and shuttled them off. And I love that the college board's not doing SATs and stuff, or not SAT. Yeah, SATs. There's just so many things that got so commercialized and so crazy, and it's a chance for us to come back down and start resonating with each other, which sounds woo-woo, but that's not how I mean it. I just mean see people, listen to people. Humans are pretty amazing beings.
Yes.
And so those of us doing this work, and why I really wanted to do this show, is to just start to get people to think about, what can I do for myself that would change me, that would change the people I'm around, that would change how I think about problem solving.
Yeah, that's so well said, Jen. I couldn't agree with you more. I just feel that there's a humanitarian collective, I pray, raising consciousness vibration I am I I really believe that to, put what you put out is what you're going to get back. And I can't tell you how many times I've browsed through like, clothes on Nordstrom Rack or something, and I'm like, I don't need this. Like it's so liberating to not purchase and make those like numb out purchases because of boredom. There's so much more to do right now. And while some days are, kind of sad and, feeling the collective trauma of what we're going through is one, but on the other perspective, my creativity right now is off the charts, and I'm trying to use this time in a growth, constructive, exciting way. So
Yeah,
I think that it's a very special time.
it really is. And for anybody who, when we talk about awareness and consciousness, that's just meaning that we're hoping and we're striving to move through the world with intention, meaning we're making conscious decisions about the choices that we're making. So it's like Shelley, that example of shopping is perfect. I just find now I spend more time on that Nextdoor app, and I'm just looking at the stuff people want to get rid of. And I'm like, okay, I don't need a lot of stuff. I need a little bit of stuff. Like I would really need a picnic table, but I'm just looking, because now it's just, why don't we just all move the stuff around?
Mm-hmm.
And that satisfies that shopping boredom thing. And yet I'm not crapping up the planet and keeping stuff out of the landfill. It's just, that's intention. That's awareness. And that's what we mean by consciousness. Just being
I love that.
really aware of the decisions that we're making and the actions that we're taking to make a difference.
Yes. Absolutely. Well said. Yes. And I was taking my dog for a walk yesterday, and somebody was giving away a bunch of books. I took 3 of them and I wanted 5, but I was like, I think there were like a lot of books. So in any case, yeah,
No, but
I'm with you on
I
that.
know, but that's it, right? No landfill, share.
Yeah.
And then next time you could take books back. I mean, the little mini libraries are great for that. We could take books back.
Yes.
Like, just, you don't need to keep all your books, Mom. I mean,
Right.
everybody. My mom finally learned that. God, I get it. It's, for a while, books became like this proof that you read something or that you cared about something. But passing the book along after you read it is half the fun now. I keep wanting to do that on Audible. I'm like, but how do I pass this to somebody? Like, yeah, this is just too cool. So guys, I'm gonna open it up to any questions. We may or may not have questions, Shelley, but I always open it up in case somebody does. And the squad knows to just take themselves off mute and they can just jump in. I think this was such a good discussion, and I think it's really helpful for people. I'm one of the job hunters. I've got to get going on this, and I do a little bit every day, but it's tough. It is tough. And I know how to do it, and it's tough.
Yes. I know.
So, okay.
Same.
Yeah, we don't have any questions today, but that's okay, because everybody knows on the slides, we specifically tell people how to reach you. So if you're interested, that's next up is Gloria, but I have the slide here with Shelley's information. She's at shelleykarpaty.com. And I'm going to put a limit on to the end of the month, because I don't know what's going to happen, but I want to make sure that people, if they're interested in reaching out to you, they get moving on it and don't assume this offer is good for all time, because it's not.
Yes.
It's now. And so please dive in. And Shelley, thank you so much for coming today. Tomorrow we do have Gloria, who'll talk to us about motivating your team. But this was great. And I hope all of you out there are inspired and start moving with that intention, and good luck on your job hunt. Good luck on advancing your career.
Thank you, Jen. It was great to see you.
Thanks, everybody.
I look forward to meeting you soon. Bye.
Bye.